right, here we go again. So when I say capable prosecutors, you know, the idiots from the deep state will come up, well, Jonathan Luna this and this person that. So the baggage you see in those cases, in the Luna case, possibly in the Nichols case, in the Gricker case, that's indicative of a spycraft murder. They're going to ensure that's in the history so they can use that spycraft psyop attack on the victim to help muddy the investigation. Right? And maybe even extort and fear the investigators. Like, you have something like that in your history, don't you? Right. Thank you, Larry. Now, Jonathan Luna was a different investigator the day he died versus when he was, you know, quote unquote, in his prime, prosecutor, than when he was in his prime, because he was under a spycraft assassination. Right. Which I was at the same time also, and probably longer. And then they'll go, well, why were you? Because you're a fucking criminal, and you fucking sold out the United States, and you sold out God, and you sold out everything honest and everything decent, and perpetrate a fraud, and parade yourselves around as the heroes, when you're the most despicable pieces of shit that have ever entered into any investigation or government in the history of the world. So again, when I say capable, you know, just capable. That's all it takes. If you can prosecute a case, like when you look at my work, when you look at Rob Harding's work, which was a prosecutor along with Jonathan Luna in the same office, Jamie Bennett. We look at their work, you go, well, right. But the reality is, we live in that world of superstars. In the world, in the general world, and again, Nichols was very capable, but you know, Nichols is capable, Luna's capable, Gricker was capable. That's all it takes to convict somebody who hires somebody for murder. Again, Weinstein, same kind of operation, but a different set of parameters. Right. And again, there's people in government take money all day to cover up a murder. They don't care. It doesn't mean it has to be an investigator. Well, if you send your stuff to the lab, oh, the labs are honest. You can't overcome a lab. Right. The labs are probably the least prosecuted, the most corrupt aspect of law enforcement. Right. Not to say it's, you know, every lab is corrupt, but could be. I mean, who knows where we are in the beast world? The beast could have taken over every crime lab. Again, the people that went after Rose McGowan had connections to government and government sex investigations, and most likely DNA test kits. Again, they're spies. It's already known. Right. So one of my theories over the years is they're killing investigators. There was an entity out there, like a Weinstein spy entity, that was offering hits on prosecutors, law enforcement, anybody that you felt wronged you in government. Now, they bring up Nichols' case. They trying to like sully him, but he had a case against somebody, right? And not necessarily that it's that case, but then they're trying to make him look like a poor person, right? There was some hard-nosed case that he was involved in, but that's Oklahoma. I mean, he's just doing what Oklahoma would have him do. Right? You may not agree with the case, but that's Oklahoma. I mean, you can sit there all day and you watch all these cases and, you know, the differences between the sentences and, you know, probation over here and 50 years over there, you know, which maybe we need to address someday in the future to figure out. Maybe as a nation, we want to establish parameters for you know, again, the guidelines are a nuisance to good judges. But when we have these wide-ranging sentencing things, it's just, well, what's going on? It's very unfair. So in the name of fairness, we might just want to kind of give some sort of parameter to it. Well, it just makes no sense. I mean, you're sitting in a state where you give somebody, I mean, you may think it's deterrence, but you give somebody 50 years, in another state, they give them probation. So again, I'm not saying that you don't give them 50 years. I'm not telling you that you don't give them probation, but what is the appropriate sentence? Right. Probably somewhere in the middle. Right. No, fairness is in the scriptures. If you don't want to be a Christian, then don't tell people you're a Christian. And it's in Jewish scriptures also. Probably most scriptures, actually. So I believe somebody was offering services, and this is what this is, attacking my place. I don't care who it goes back to. Again, spies are going to have a network that'll never, or generally not, involve them. So what does that do? Every investigator knows you only go so far in an investigation and you walk away from it, because otherwise they'd have been assassinated. So like I said, a Russian is not going to walk up to a deputy U.S. Marshal in 2002 and say, "Do Larry, and we'll give you something." But a Russian will go through a chain of people, possibly Mossad spies, possibly a Weinstein Mossad group, contact that former deputy U.S. Marshal that asks you out to dinner and shows you the great life that he has or that she has, and then tell you to do it or ask you to do it. Right. Or maybe tell you. Maybe they've been around you for about 2 months, and you're a little worried about what's going on, and maybe they know that you know, while you were on assignment, you frequented a prostitute, or you drove drunk, or whatever it was. And they come in and give you the offer, and you can't refuse it. And I guarantee you'll be grandfathered into heaven at that point. I'm serious. Based upon what everybody else does. Everybody's a Judas to a certain degree. Right. Or the majority of people. Right. Churches I've been in, they're surely crucifying Christ. And anybody else that they're paid to crucify. We have terminology in our language that is seer-driven, which means it's there to give you a hint. So the term crucify doesn't mean you have to put somebody up on a cross. But again, in some cases, they have. So again, there's somebody out there offering law enforcement murder contracts, and prosecutors included, but there are people in government that won't investigate, and that's how it succeeds. In the Jonathan Luna case, the coroner was out of the loop. That's why that's an inconsistency. No, they probably ready. Baltimore City, the coroner was probably, yeah, you deep state. I don't think you could be a coroner in Baltimore City without being deep state. Right. They were ready. But he ended up somehow up in Lancaster County. Right. Maybe an act of God. Agreed. Well, first off, we were all at home. There's no way we went up to Lancaster County. So it was a protection for us. I mean, that exists even probably outside of God. I mean, because it wasn't only me. I mean, Rob Harding, Jamie Bennett, they got protection or had protection, Right? They weren't cursed off as much as I was. Rob Harding was a Princeton grad, so I think it was Princeton. Right? So he had a lot of protection off of that. Quote unquote professional protection. Thanks, Larry. Right. In fact, I think I was, when I look back at that era, and they had my head and everything, but I think I was chatting with either an agent, probably an agent, maybe an informant, but probably an agent. I was probably chatting with an agent the night before. Now they were able to, their curses all my life were able to, I went to sleep early. I thought it was so strange. I couldn't sleep I can't sleep. I get midnight, I'm falling asleep, right? That night, I think I went to sleep like 10:30. Usually I'm asleep, I don't sleep till maybe midnight, right? Or something like that. I know the time I went to sleep was a little bit early, but it wasn't like crazy early, right? But I was probably speaking with most likely an agent, but it could have been an informant or something. Oh, no, they are brainwashing people into committing crimes. They will torture you until you commit the crime they want you to commit. So again, there are psychological murders that involve third parties, which means a suicide that is caused by spycraft and psyop is to be considered a psychological murder. There's no other way it's premeditated. It's premeditated beyond any other type of murder. Yet it's not prosecuted. Why? Because they're sitting in the government. Right. No, the person doesn't have choices. Again, if a CIA person, a real CIA person that has been in that spycraft, tradecraft for a lifetime, were free to talk to you, they would tell you, yeah, I can make it, we can make it so nobody, the victim that again, they would say that the target has no choices. Now, there may be a small amount of choices, either be disabled or kill yourself or something like that. Right? So again, it's going to at least disable the victim. And in most cases is lethal. And again, what they did to me and what they do to me will cause me to die at least 10 years, probably sooner. I can't give you an exact number of years than I would have had they not done it. It may actually be even 20 years. Thank you, Larry. Though it is murder, there's no doubt, attempted murder at least, but it will be murder the day I die. So the system might recognize that. So laugh all you like, all of you. Oh no, they're the worst of the worst. They're devils. They're going to hell, man. There's very few spies that can ever ascend to heaven. Or spy operators. So again, you might be a preacher in a Baptist church or a nurse in a hospital. Right. And then there's the other psychological murder or spycraft murder, where they take another person and whack their head so bad, and the only way they feel like they can survive is to kill that person or this person or multiple people. Thank you, Larry. And they're getting off on this. Don't let them tell you that it's we're weeding out the weak people. They're the weak people, all of you. They are known notoriously to project in their statements, which they speak about themselves, but they say other people are that way. So I was in Naples, Florida, and yeah, I was at a bar. Everybody goes to a bar, and sometimes somebody just freaks out on them. But the way this one happened, I knew they were moving people against me in Naples, Florida. And my friends were the bouncers at the bar. At least we, not close friends, but we worked out, in the same time frame at the gym. And we didn't even work out together. We just, I was there, they were there, and we worked out, right? So I'm sitting there at the bar, I'm not really doing anything, not really talking to anybody, just sitting there, said hi to a few people maybe, and that was about it. And I have a drink, and I'm watching something. It was like something going on, like a DJ or something. I can't remember. Right. And all of a sudden, one of the guys I work with comes running past me and tackles this guy. And he says, we've been watching him. We figured he was going to, do something. We didn't know for sure, but we were watching. So he was stalking me, and he was coming at me. And he got him, and they threw him out. But again, that's what happens when they work people against you. Eventually, like one of them sees you in a bar. Again, let's go to Arthur Lloyd, the Navy guy. They end up shooting. Was probably being worked against Arthur Lloyd. And the cops probably knew it. That's why they didn't want to testify in that shooting. Because they knew it was a railroad by the Marshal Service. They were mad because he sued them. And won. Yet that file and that time period that he won the discrimination case on, they were using to prosecute him. Now, what did Montgomery County Police Department know? They were called and told to follow Arthur Lloyd for about 10 years and harass him, essentially. Right. So when it came time, God bless them, when it came time to prosecute, they had to force police officers to testify because they knew what it was. Now, today, I don't know if they would actually even give a shit. Because again, it had so many years later, we're like 15 or 20, about 20 years later. So they may have been able to infiltrate that police department. No, the people that did that to Arthur Lloyd will tell you they're investigating him. But I will tell you that they're criminals. And they wanted him dead. And they got off on harassing him day in, day out. They're psychos. They're Harvey Weinstein rapist protectors. Now, Trump, he's talking about you. Biden, he's talking about you. I'm not talking about you unless I'm talking about you. If I'm talking about you, then you reveal something about yourself. Not me. I'm not revealing anything. Thank you, man. So that's that scam. Everybody that's in office is a pedophile. They started, I say it's dead now because I brought it up. Mondani or whatever his name is. They started saying he was a pedophile. That's why I said, that's why they were so against Harris, really. And that's why I told Harris to do that. And their people are just, I wouldn't say Harris, every candidate really. But she latched onto it. The idea of bipartisanship kills that bullshit. Right. Now, Trump is theoretically going bipartisan, but he has to understand what that H-1B thing is and what they're telling him. He's got double agents around him. Now everybody's starting to believe me. Right. Well, again, you have to figure out, I've told you how to do it, I think, before. You have to figure out how to get, I'll have to rethink it because we're in a different time period, but you have to figure out how to get the U.S. citizen employed, and because there's talent, but they're being killed. Right. There are spies watching our country and killing our talent, and that's what they did to Jonathan Luna. That's what they did to me. That's what they did to Deegan. Right. Now, Deegan was at least cursed off, if not psychologically operated. That was, when I wasn't in knowledge of this when I left the Marshal Service, but my idea was about myself. I said, with what they're doing, because I already had an Arthur Lloyd-like situation, and I didn't get out of my vehicle. I just called one of the other deputies, Dave. He was down at the airport during 9/11. I said, look, somebody's following me and stalking me, and I'm in the VW Bug, and I don't have lights in here. And that was a setup from them, right? The office changed my vehicle out right before I was stalked, so I couldn't just flip my lights on. That's how I know the deputies were set up for those suicides, whether they were suicides or not. Because they could have been murders. Crime labs are bullshit, man. Right. Now, I'm not saying every lab, but right. They're probably the most corrupt things in the history of law enforcement that are least prosecuted. Right. So I didn't get out of the vehicle. I'm like, no matter what I do, Chief Quick is going to sit there and convince the world to prosecute me. Right. Arthur Lloyd didn't have this thought. Thank God that I did. Right. But I said, if I get out, there could be 3 other cars. Because the guy had already, what I believe, I only saw it out of the corner of my eye, but the driver flew past me. When I lost him, then I got off the highway. A little bug can zip around. So I was able to lose him. He was in an SUV. Right. He already flew past me with looked like a diving knife. And what they'll say is, well, we're just investigating. This is before Luna and all that. They'll say they're just investigating something, but it's bullshit. Right. So I think that was the lure to say, get out of your vehicle and shoot us if you need to. Right. So tinted windows, there could have been 6 people in there for all I know with guns. That's the first part. Got one person I'm not worried about. But I am when we have traitors to the United States like Chief Quick, Karen Shelton, and Slickster. They betrayed the United States. Oh, very, very wealthy, I'm sure, in the end of their life. You want to see undeserving promotions, you should see what happened in that district after I left the Marshal Service. Then you can figure out who. Now, some deserved it. Like, obviously, Matt Burke deserved a promotion. But, right. But you look at those other people, they never deserved it. They couldn't even hold down their deputy job. So when you wondered why they were there, when they killed me, then you knew why. They work for criminal enterprise, whether they call it CIA or not. Thank you, Larry. So I was confronted with the idea I can't get out of this vehicle. Arthur Lloyd got out of the vehicle and ended up shooting the guy. That guy probably knew to harass Arthur Lloyd. And in a drunken moment, he acted on it. Because the deputies put the word out on him. Corrupt PIs put the word out on him. Narcotics distributors put the word. They all work together. They don't care if Arthur Lloyd's going after narcotics distributors or not. Right. They put it into the beast pipeline, the deep state pipeline. So he chases down Arthur Lloyd and gets himself killed. Oh, they've tried to cut me off, all sorts of things. They'll go, well, that could happen. They tried to cut me off, and they're deep state. And they're in Oklahoma, they're in Texas, they're in Kansas. Now, the weird part is, what was that inspector's name? I had his name the other day. It's in that original CBS thing about racist Marshal Service. Right. U.S. Marshal Service, racist, CBS. Is U.S. Marshal Service racist? 1999. No, I'm not living in the past. It's still going on. It's just everything's covered up. Right. Marshal Scott, I think. Deputy, he went, no, we know. Zanowick. Bill Scott, right. But he was an inspector when he died. Right. And when he was ran off the road. I didn't know he was run off the road. If I'd have known it back then, I could have put it together. Right. Over the years. Right. They've tried to run me off the road. Then I'm talking to a counselor because I got real sick in Kansas. I suspect they drugged me to it. That's how spies kill people, where you can say it's something else. Right? If I didn't figure it out, I'd been dead. I don't think I was necessarily figuring out completely being drugged, but I figured out how to counter what they were causing. So I went to this guy who was passive aggressing me, a counselor. I'm thinking, is he deep state? Because this is weird. Right. Because they'll tell you get to a deep state doctor or psychologist, they'll do that to you. I had one do that to me. I was doing a sleep study, simple sleep study in Indiana. The guy was flaming me for a half hour. And I, kept my cool, but I'm like, deep state. Indiana's deep state. Don't buy into their conservative bullshit. But by the time I was finished, he was like asking me, he was like very, I would say paranoid almost, when I finally got to the end of the thing. But he got to the point where he realized that I was being honest. He just stumbled on somebody that probably, he was probably a victim of the deep state. And he thought I was part of the deep state. See, this is one of the risks of that type of operation, is what they cause between people. So, especially victims of the deep state. So he thinks I'm there as a deep state harasser. And he's like flaming me a little bit, and I'm thinking, what the hell's going on here? And he eventually starts talking about, well, if I take you on as a patient, you might not like what I asked you to do because we're not going to stop. We're just going to keep going no matter what they do. Right. So eventually, I figured out, he was a victim of the deep state. Right. Or had been at some point in his life. So what happened is the guy, like, they forced me about the same time that they do the car thing. They end up forcing me because a little girl, she lies about a bunch of shit, right? They end up forcing me to go to the employee assistance program and get written up. So like, they forced me in there, and again, it didn't work out the way they wanted to, because that's how the Marshal Service, somebody that the Marshal Service is going to kill, they force them into the employee assistance program. That's a sign that they're going to try to kill you. Murder, dead. And of course, other people too would do the same thing. Thank you, Larry. But the doctor there, the funny guy. I mean, he was honest with me. He's like, it's more about other people than you. There's nothing wrong with you. That's what he kept telling me. But I don't think he ever had a deep state victim as a patient. And again, it was just beginning the expansion of the deep state, which is also synonymous with the beast in the scriptures. Again, that's New Testament, Rabbi Yeshua ben David. Jews would have it if the Romans and the Greeks didn't goyimize it, because his part is Jewish. Paul's part is Jewish. That's not even their names. Their names are Jewish names. They would be appalled to have goyim names. But he tells me, don't worry. I have people that were in NSA, higher security clearances. Worse things have happened to them. So really, the doctors were astounded by what happened. But it didn't make sense to them, because I guess they got the message that I was to be kept, right? Not thrown away. But they didn't know there was a criminal, because the criminal enterprise hostile takeover was beginning. So it had to move around all the different communities and isolate the people and do this and do that to them. That's what was probably going on with that doctor. He didn't realize it, but they were trying to, or maybe he didn't and made a choice for the right instead of wrong. They were trying to recruit him for the criminal enterprise. But he didn't take it. Because what they do to him, they expect him to do to other people. That's how they train you. But at a certain point, you made it. You're an honest person now because you committed a crime for us. Right. But he told me, but it was all bullshit. It steered me in the wrong direction. I made some wrong choices because they were very credible people. Both doctors knew what it was supposed to be. Right. Actually, 3 doctors. In the end, it was over about a 4-year period. And I didn't go to them all that much. And most of it was just to help me get through my divorce because the deep state was blocking my divorce. Right. Get me through my divorce and get me through the retirement. Right. So I get all my paperwork done and get through it because it's very difficult. Again, like I can't even get to my disability. And that's why they're doing this stuff. Because instead of getting to my disability, I've got to speak out to resurrect myself with the help of the Almighty God. And then I got to, have the power and energy to do my security. And I have to. If I don't do it, they'll go option F. Let's push the buttons to get him killed. Middle of the night, have somebody sneak in. He won't. It's his fault. He's a schmuck. He won't secure. Right. But again, people that live around here know that you don't have to lock your doors, but you don't have to secure it against the people you rent from, unless the beast is involved, unless the criminal enterprise is involved. They're all the same. Crooked police officers are the same as a narcotics distributor and the sex trafficker. The deep state is run by spy masters. They will only take you as far, once you're in, as far as they believe they can. Well, it's a process to make somebody a devil. You're not a devil. You're just a demon the first time you do it. And then you get elevated to devil status, and then you're a made dirty cop. Right. Made man, made women. That's how they do it. So again, they ran Bill Scott off the road. They ran that psychologist off the road, or tried to. He asked me. The one psychologist will go back because I missed where I was at. The one I was seeing online in Kansas, or thinking of going. I didn't. The weird part is Hashem wanted me to talk to him, and that was it. I talked to him like once or twice, and that was it. Till I got to the end of the story. He never told me anything, but again, I'm an investigator, and I was reading what he was saying at a certain point. I didn't want to have to. I wanted to relax and just talk to somebody. Because again, I'm being isolated. I don't get to talk to anybody. I don't give a shit, because they'll go to hell for it. Thousands and thousands, if not millions of people will go to hell for what you did to me alone. Hashem follows that chain. If you're connected to it and you power it, you'll go to hell. And of course, that type of power is anti-power. But he asked me, he goes, did they try to run you off the road? I said nothing even close to it. So which means they tried to run him off the road. Now, remember the thing where more psychologists and psychiatrists are on medicine than the average person when per capita or some shit? You know why? Because if you're a deep state victim and you go to a psychologist or psychiatrist and you tell them everything, they want them discredited if they can't trust them. So they force them to medicine. Their life will never be okay until they take medicine. That's, you know how this psychological medicine increased? It's these people. They'll go around harassing somebody until they take medicine if they think they might have some goods on. I'm like, oh, that person's been on medicine. Or is on medicine. No, the powers planned, I think, an arrest. And then they extorted the powers so they couldn't do it. Right. Of the people that were doing it to me. or at least an internal affairs reprimand or something like that. Correct. But the spies had already infiltrated and were, NSA's watching possibly, or something like that. There's foreign spy organizations also. That's how Five Eyes works and the other ones. Or it's the corruption in them. If I'm in the United States, I call up somebody in another country to spy on the person here and to psychologically harass them. But again, now it's, pretty much the contractor gig. But I'm sure they still do it. Oh, we're not spying on the United States. Yeah, but you hired, essentially promised or back and forth favored, the four other eyes to do it to the victim that you selected. Right. You'll all go to hell. It's a given. You say Jesus a million times, it's not like that. They think saying Jesus will get them out of hell like rubbing the stomach of a Buddha. That's the state of the Christian Union today. However it happened, they spycraft murdered Jonathan Nichols, Jonathan Luna, and Mr. Gricker. Ray Gricker. Or Roy, whatever it is. Just clearing the air around it, metaphysically. Part of the system I speak about is in the religions. They'll do anything for money. They're sick. All right, this is the one thing I lost for a second. I'm going to get back to it because that's why I was clearing the air. So when I was in Norman, Oklahoma, that's where I knew nothing about Jonathan Nichols. I knew, I guess there was a Senator Nichols or something. I followed him for a while, as far as online. I'm probably part of something there. I was probably most likely part of several senators and certain people there on the inside. I'm actually their contact on. That's why my investigation. I was asleep. I had no idea what was going on. I was part of the Senate somehow. I was one of the. I probably would have progressed, like when I retired, to Senate investigator or something like that. Maybe even before that. Who knows? Like, had they not been able to do what they did. I was living in Norman, and what they did is, I'm sure they were directly sent to do me, even before I got to Norman, when I was in Oklahoma City. Well, the contract was increased. Now, you have some state, there's a state trooper that was definitely part of it, and some others. Right. But what happened is Jonathan Nichols was on the list to be hit. And it could have been a federal task force. I can't tell you how it all worked because, I don't have that investigative capability. They want me to try to do that. And then they'll come and say, I'm doing something illegal. I just take it to the point where you should be able to investigate it and figure out what it is, either to save yourself, your community, your family, whatever it is, right? Or actually investigate it and arrest them. But what happened is Jonathan Nichols was on the list, so they went after him while they're going after me because again, they can make triple the money if they go after 3 different people. So they're not just go there and go after me. And again, it could have been a federal task force. Jonathan Nichols was a victim of the deep state, and they put him on the list to assassinate. Somebody could have walked in that house and shot him. With the state of the law enforcement system today, and when Jonathan Nichols was killed or murdered or suicided, but I don't believe it was suicide 100%, because they'll change the video. The lab may not tell you that if there is video. The lab may tell you there's no other DNA when there is maybe 7 types of DNA of 7 different people. Could have been what, I don't remember that guy's name, was it Khashoggi or whatever? Could have been like a Khashoggi thing. They grabbed him and killed him. And you as a police officer, your crime team's there. You send it in the lab. Oh, nothing there. What, imagine that. Really a suicide. There's police officers that know. They're not going to say a thing because they don't want to be killed, Right. Because they're not a rooster. Well, stay peaceful. Praise God in all that you do. Don't kill yourselves. Just, talk to God. That's the best way out of the mind if you get depressed from what I'm saying. Or you want to kill somebody because of what I'm saying. Stay peaceful. Praise God in all that you do.